Welcome to this explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into it. Today, we are looking at a genuinely fascinating journey, the evolution of modern software development. Specifically, we're focusing our lens on part 1 of the source material, covering pages 1 through 102. We're going to explore how organizations absolutely must shift from a state of chaotic, fragmented tool sprawl into a streamlined, automated foundation. If you've ever felt like releasing software is just way more painful than it should be, well, you are not alone. This explainer is going to show you exactly why that happens, and more importantly, how to fix it by laying down what we call a paved road. So why does DevOps sometimes feel like DevOps? It's a question that hits a little too close to home for a lot of us, doesn't it? We all know the golden promise of DevOps: build, ship, learn, repeat. But for so many teams, even after adopting these practices, the everyday reality is a constant rustling match with broken pipelines, midnight outages, and just completely exhausting release cycles. Honestly, it feels less like a smooth assembly line and way more like you're just constantly putting out fires. Because as the saying goes, every meaningful transformation starts by exposing the friction that slows us down, right? Before we can even dream of this seamless, automated, AI-driven future, what some folks are calling NoOps, we have to take a really hard, honest look at the hidden friction that's dragging our developers down today. We simply can't build the future on top of a broken foundation. To get us there, here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll cover the promise of DevOps, the hidden tool tax, standardizing the paved road, going cloud native, and finally, building a reference architecture. Starting with Section 1, the promise of DevOps. Let's quickly remind ourselves why we started this journey in the first place. The original noble vision was all about tearing down that massive traditional wall of confusion between the developers writing the code and the operations teams deploying it. If you look back at the 1990s, we had these completely siloed beginnings. Developers basically threw their code over the wall, and ops had to scramble the chat shit. Then, in 2001, Agile came along. That sped up the coding phase, sure, but deployment, still a massive bottleneck. The real eureka moment hit in 2009 with John Allspaw and Paul Hammond's famous Flickr presentation. They absolutely stunned the world by showing how to do 10+ deploys a day simply by forcing dev and ops to cooperate. And then, in 2013, the Phoenix Project was published. That book completely shifted the culture and finally brought these continuous integration and delivery concepts straight into the mainstream boardroom. It was a beautiful vision. Moving on to Section 2, the hidden tool tax. But here's the plot twist. By encouraging teams to just go out and choose their own specialized tools, we accidentally created massive new silos. Look at the hidden costs of this fragmentation. When your QA team is using one tool, your security team is running separate standalone scanners, and your ops team is staring at their own completely disconnected dashboard, your developers are forced to constantly context switch. And this friction, it absolutely slows your time to market. It drastically increases the risk of manual copy-paste errors. It crushes team morale and leads to major developer burnout because they're spending all day fighting their tools instead of actually writing code. And ultimately, it scatters your data, making it essentially impossible to scale or get any clear picture of your pipeline's overall health. We actually call this massive, frustrating burden the tool tax. It's the invisible overhead of managing all those duplicate efforts. The source material highlights a really classic example of this: a modern financial services firm that went all in on a choose-your-own-tool culture. Well, they ended up with multiple different CI/CD tools, disconnected scripts everywhere, and varying developer environments. Instead of moving faster, their developers were literally spending weeks just setting up their environments and waiting on manual approvals across all these disjointed systems. The tool tax was basically eating their innovation budget alive. Which brings us to Section 3, standardizing the paved road. The antidote to all this chaos is definitely not adding more tools to integrate the old tools. It's standardization. Enter the paved road. Think of this as an internal developer platform. It's an opinionated, battle-tested pipeline that your teams can literally adopt out of the box. And no, it doesn't kill creativity. Actually, by removing the heavy drag of infrastructure setup, it frees your developers to actually innovate. It means that when a new team spins up a project, they don't have to spend 3 weeks arguing over which CI server they're going to use or how to configure their security scanners. It unifies the developer experience and completely eliminates the need to reinvent the wheel for every single project. Next up, Section 4, going cloud native. Now, to make this paved road a reality, you need the right technical engine under the hood. You just can't build a modern pipeline on legacy infrastructure. I think we all know the difference between those heavy, snowflake virtual machines and modern, lightweight, ephemeral containers orchestrated by Kubernetes. But in this specific context, making that shift from monoliths to microservices, it is absolutely non-negotiable for achieving a fast, standardized pipeline. Because here's the thing, standardization removes the drag, while cloud-native, data-centric practices propel us forward. When you use cloud-native tools, specifically infrastructure as code or IAC, you create a single, version-controlled source of truth for your entire system. This doesn't just magically make deployments faster. It creates centralized, platform-agnostic observability. You finally get those crucial real-time feedback loops because your data isn't trapped in a dozen different legacy tool silos anymore. And finally, Section 5, Building the Reference Architecture. So how do we take this standardization and unified data and actually build a mature pipeline out of it? The source lays out 4 non-negotiable pillars of a mature reference architecture. First, source and work management. You got to keep all your code and collaboration in one place, like GitHub. Second, CI/CD pipelines. These need to be tightly integrated right next to the code using tools like GitHub Actions. Third, observability and analytics. You need a unified insights layer, like Opsera, for instance, to pull telemetry from everywhere so you have actual board-ready KPIs. And fourth, embedded security. This is huge. Security cannot be bolted on at the very end. It absolutely must be embedded directly into the developer workflow. Using tools like GitHub Advanced Security lets you scan for secrets and vulnerabilities right there in the pull request, not the night before release. Okay, so how do you actually get there? Here is an actionable, step-by-step mitigation checklist from the material to start taming your own legacy jungle today. Step 1, stand up a tiger team. Bring together your platform security and reliability engineers to actually design your paved road. Step 2, baseline the sprawl. Document every single rogue tool you have right now so you can prove the impact later. Step 3, freeze new tool purchases immediately. Consolidate your stack. Curate, don't accrete. And step 4, roll out a single curated IDE. Give your developers a pre-configured environment where coding, scanning, and telemetry tagging all happen seamlessly from keystroke 1. Unifying your architecture and finally paying down that tool tax isn't just about neatness or even saving a few licensing dollars. It is the absolute mandatory launchpad for the future. You literally cannot integrate generative AI, like autonomous coding assistants or self-healing testing agents, into a chaotic, fragmented pipeline. AI demands high-quality, standardized data to even function. Standardizing today is exactly how you prepare for the human-AI collaboration of tomorrow. Which leaves us with this final, somewhat provocative thought. Once your unified, cloud-native pipeline is built, the friction is gone, and the data is centralized, is it ready to run itself? Standardizing the paved road is really just part 1 of this journey. The real magic happens when we layer AI onto this pristine foundation to reach a true autonomous, NoOps future. But that is a topic for our next deep dive. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep building.